Hello, my data farm. It's Henry again, your favorite data engineer. In today's video, I'm going to take you through one of the key concepts or the key concepts in data engineering. And with this key concept, when you understand it, you are going to build all your framework architecture based on this concept. And it's very important. And what is that? That is the Medallion architecture. The Medallion architecture. That is the concept or the architecture with data engineers we build all our frameworks, all our architecture on. And with good understanding of this architecture or this concept, you'll be able to build a strong infrastructure, understandable, having a strong foundation in data engineering. And it's one of the most important architecture you need to understand as an aspiring data engineer or any data engineer, experienced data engineer. And you need to understand this concept to be able to use your skill in SQL or Python to build and execute this architecture out, right? So I'm here as your favorite data engineer. I will explain this concept using very simple things that we know or we already know to break this down to the barest minimum for you to understand what it really means. And in this channel, we don't use complex English. I don't use complex English. I want to use very simple language or normal things or daily activities to explain this high level and complex things to every individual so you can all understand it and build this. So without wasting much time, let's just start now. All right, so in this diagram, this is a data pipeline architecture. And in this architecture, I'm not going to talk about the full architecture, but I'm going to focus on the aspect that belongs to Medallion architecture, right? The aspect that is Medallion architecture. And that's what I'm going to use to explain the concept in data engineering, what we mean by Medallion architecture. And this is very important because as a data engineer, you need to be able to structure your data in a well-processed way so that any subsequent data engineer can take your code base and understand what you're doing. Not only that, it also helps you arrange or organize your data warehouse in the best structure that is it follows, right? So in this infrastructure, I built this for an organization that long time ago, and it makes use of the cloud services, that's AWS and other infrastructure as well, other cloud services, right, that are integrated, combined together to be able to get this. But I'll be focusing on this aspect, which is the Medallion architecture, and that is where the explanation will come from, right? And you can see this is a full data engineering architecture that has been done, but the core part of this design is in the Medallion here, the where I'm showing the mouse. That is the Medallion architecture. And what is the concept behind this? That is what I want you to understand, the concept behind this. And what we are going to use to explain this is the Olympics, or we all know how the Olympics awards medals are given, right? The first person gets the gold, and the second runner-up gets the silver, and the third runner-up gets the bronze, right? And this is the same concept we implemented here. I'll do diagrams and then you will be able to understand visuals. This will help you get a good concept or a good understanding of how this Medallion architecture works. And it's very important. Keep this in mind because all these are will be built using PySpark or Python or SQL. It all depends on the framework or you are using to build this, right? It all depends on the code base or the framework or the tool you are using to build this, right? And that would want to determine whether you're going to use SQL or PySpark, right? And any of them is good. But let's understand this architecture, right? This right here, just this aspect. Ignore the other aspects, right? Those are complex things that needs to be set up. You work hand in hand with the DevOps engineer to help all this infrastructure come into place, because all these are not going to be handled by you. Some are going to be handled by some of the team members, that the DevOps engineer or DevOps, yeah, DevOps engineer, right? And others are also going to be handled by the cloud uh, solutions architect, right? But if you're an organization that is very small, you might be responsible for setting up the whole infrastructure, right? You might be responsible for setting up the whole infrastructure, and it's good to understand the whole infrastructure for you to be able to become a complete data engineer. You understand the end to end, right? From beginning to end, you can set up everything, and that makes you a superb and in high demand. And the reason why this medallion is very important is because you need to understand this concept. That makes you stand out in the job markets, and even as a good data engineer, it's part of the requirements that you need to understand what we mean by medallion architecture. Now let's go deep into this, right? So I'm going to create a new sheet and going to name this medal. All right. Okay. So now, as I stated, this is based off of the Olympics medal concept, right? It's behind like the Olympics medal concept that is being done. And here, this is your data warehouse. This is your data warehouse, right? So that's how you're going to organize your data in your warehouse, the data warehouse. Data warehouse is more like the finalized, like the clean data where you store your clean data and all that, right? That's another concept, right? That's another thing you need to know. I'll create another video to explain that. But with this, now, as I stated, the Olympics medal is based off of the Olympics medal concept. And let's take a look at how the Olympics medal concept is, and then we transfer or we translate that knowledge or that information into data engineering. With the medal concept from Olympics, we transfer that knowledge or that concept into data engineering, and that is what we call the medallion architecture, right? So let's begin by looking at the Olympics concept, right? How Olympics does this. So let's name this Olympics medal structure. Olympics medals structure, right? Let's expand this and increase the font size. Let's make this bold and increase the font size so that it's visible, so you can see what it's happening in here, right? I think this, let me reduce it to 18 is okay. All right, now let's draw some boxes, right? About we already know is gold, silver, and bronze. So let's create these three boxes, right? We have this, copy and paste. You just use Control C, Control V, copy and paste. Here I have this. Okay. And per Olympics, we know the gold medalist is there's kind of that hierarchy where the gold medalist stand is higher than the silver and the bronze, right? So we're going to have that same structure so that you understand what we're trying to achieve. We're going to make the gold box bigger, the biggest among them, right? And make the silver bigger, right, compared to the bronze. So that's what we're going to do. And this is the gold, so let's make it a little bit bigger. Great. And silver, we leave it that way, and bronze, we reduce the size a little. Right. Great. Okay, now let's give it the color so that we can give it the right color, so we know. Gold, let's say silver, bronze, right? Okay, and give it name. And in Olympics they call it first, second, third, right? So let's just say first, second, entered. Make this bold, increase the font size so it's visible. Yeah, let's bring it down a little to make room for what we are going to do. Okay, so we have this, and we know this is the first person who has the gold, right? Silver, and the third person bronze, right? So we can even add some text below it, right? Bronze, and we call this gold because that's the medal that the individuals will be given. If it were an Olympics game, right, or an Olympics medal being shared, right? So yeah, let's increase the font size. I think this is okay, right? Let's increase the font size a little. Great. All right. So this the Olympics medal. Let's import some images just to have a better visibility, right? To create that whole visual Olympics dynamics in it, right? So let's import images from my laptop. Import from device. So we're gonna import this person. So let's assume this guy is the gold. He won the gold, right? He won the gold medal. And let's import another person. Import from device. This guy won the silver, right? And let's import another person. This guy. He won the bronze. Yeah. So in an Olympics medal, this is how it looks, right? First person gets the gold, and the second person gets the silver, and the third person gets the bronze. This is an Olympics medal, and this is great. Now let's transfer this knowledge into data engineering, right? And the way this is arranged, we would realize some differences, right? We would see some differences between how the Olympics medal is done and the data engineering. If you take a look at this, you can see that in the infrastructure or architecture, you can see that it's been arranged in a different way, and each of them have different reasons why it's been done, right? Each has different reasons, and I'm going to tell you why it's been done that way and why it should be that way, right? And this infrastructure, everything will be coded, right? You are going to write codes to make this work, but the concept, you need to understand the concepts first before you can implement it using SQL or Python, right? And there are so many things you need to understand before you could implement this. And I'm also working on some video to help practical one, right? That you can create this from scratch, and that's going to help a lot of people. But to begin with, this is very important for you to understand, so that when you start coding, you know that this is what you need to achieve, right? So you keep that at the back of your mind whilst you code. You follow the principle of Medallion Architecture. Now let's go into data engineering, and then you see the difference between how the Olympics one is arranged and how data engineering one works as well. Okay, so this is Medallion Architecture, right? And we are going to create it here. Now, in Medallion Architecture, the first thing we look out for is where is the data coming from, or where are the sources. It can be various sources. It's not only one source. It can be coming from one, a database, two, an Excel file, three, a CSV file, four, an API, right? API that you're pulling from third party, an API that you've even built internally, right? There are so many sources, and all these sources need to flow into your data warehouse. And when they arrive, where do you keep this original or raw data that have been put into, that are flowing into your data warehouse, right? That is why Medallion Architecture is very important. When these sources of data, and note, all these sources, you are the one going to do the integrations, right? Most of you are the one going to do all the integrations to pull these sources, right? And when these sources you are done, there is a principle or concept that you need to follow, and this is the principle we are talking about. So when these sources come from your API, Excel file, database, whatever integration you have, or whatever sources they might be coming from, CRM, CRM sources, third party, wherever, right? When they arrive in your system, you are going to organize it in a structured way, and that is what Medallion Architecture takes care of. You are going to arrange your data in a structured process or in a structured format. When they arrive, they are unstructured. Most of them are unstructured. They are just coming in flow like that. But it is your responsibility as a data engineer to organize your data warehouse to follow a systematic layer or a systematic process. And that is the process we are talking about, the Medallion Architecture. So the first thing you do is to have your bronze layer, right? Your bronze. So let me zoom out a little. Yeah. So to have your bronze layer, your third is your first layer that you need to have. So I'll change this to bronze layer, right? I'll change this to bronze layer. So in this bronze layer, what does it cater for? It caters for all your data sources, all raw data coming in, all your raw data sources, right? Every data source coming in, you store it within this within this raw layer. It is not a table. No, it is not a table. This Medallion Architecture is not a table, or it's not one table. It's a whole catalog, or it's a whole schema, right? It can be a whole catalog. It can be a whole schema that you are going to allocate for that. When I mean schema, it's also another thing that you need to know, but I'll explain that in another video so that you understand what I'm talking about. But it's a whole huge thing that you need to do, right? It is not one table. No, it doesn't work like that. What it means is this, like a zone, and the zone has many things in it. This, like a zone, you are just having it like to keep it in a container or in a box, that okay, I have this box, I want to keep all the data that is coming to from all this API, all this CRM, all these Excel files, every data that comes through, dump and store all of them within this bronze layer. So this guy will keep all the raw sources that come, right? All the raw sources that come into our data warehouse. And your data warehouse can be a lot of things. It can be Redshift, right? It can be Redshift. It can be Databricks, right? It can be Google Cloud, right? It can be Google Storage, right? So there are so many ways, and that's the OLAM, online processing, right? It has that keeps the online after source, after recording, the streaming process or the raw data, the source data. These are after effects, online analytics processing. That's what it means. Yeah, online analytics processing, OLAP. So these sources can be so this is what this guy is supposed to keep. The raw data from every source that comes through is stored in this layer, untouched. You do not touch it, you just store it there and keep it as a raw source. The reason why you do this is because if in future you have challenges with what you are working with, there is always that original source that you can always fall back on. You wouldn't face challenges or lose any data if there's any mess or any crazy thing happening with your data later on during the process or downstream, right? Though you didn't have any problem with that. So that is how come in the bronze layer we keep the source data, we keep the raw form of the data untouched. We do not process anything. Now this moves on to, from the source data, you are responsible to move this data to what we call the silver, and you see the silver layer. So this connects to the silver layer, right? And let me position this well. This connects to the silver layer, which using to connect that to the silver layer, that is where your programming languages come to play. Your SQL or your Python, right? The Python, that's using PySpark, right? This way you can use your Python or SQL to code this, right? What happens here is you're going to pick data from the bronze layer, do all the analysis that you need to do all the calculations, the cleaning. This is where your cleaning, data cleaning happens, right? Data cleaning happens and aggregations. This is where they happen, right? And with this is where you are able to clean the data, make it easy to read, process it, take out unnecessary fields that you do not want from the bronze layer. You move it in here, and this is where you are going to play with the data, do your cleaning, do your filtering, do your analysis, do some joins, do some complex joins, the where statements, all those stuff. You do all of them here, right? You clean it to the appropriate level, and this place can be, you can make it a streaming table. If here for the bronze, you can even make it a streaming, you can make it a materialized view, you can make it a streaming table. It depends on what your organizational policy, what you want to build for the organization, that my silver tables must all be streaming tables. And these have a lot of policies that go into building this, right? In coding, this is not the only thing we consider. We consider so many things. So, but this is one of the this is the first layer that you know that you want to build your infrastructure according to the Medallion architecture. So this is where you do your cleaning, your data joins and everything, every complex thing you do here. So this guy would be coming here this way, right? Now at the end, now this is the final layer that you bring in, which is the gold layer, right? Which is the gold layer, right? This is what the AI, ML, BI, business intelligence engineers, this is what they consume, right? Most often they do not consume this, the silver nor the bronze. They consume the gold layer, because this, with this you have done all the cleaning, all the aggregations, every join that needs be. You have done it, all the business concept that they need, every field that they need, you've brought it in. And the good thing is, in the event they need more data or extra data, you can always call it back from the silver and bring it to the gold for them. Easy, smooth, simple, right? If something is missing in silver and you need that data, you have it in the bronze layer. You can bring it into the silver layer and then expose it or make it available to them in the gold layer, right? So this is the medallion. And over here too, you are still going to use your SQL or your Python to build this infrastructure as well, to move data from this silver to gold, right? This is why it's very important for you to know SQL or Python, because you are going to build everything using SQL and Python. SQL and Python are just not for web development or web app. No, they have very different aspects of them. SQL, we all know, is the language of the database. That's all, the only language database understands. Whatever dialect of SQL, that's the language the database understands, and you can use it to build a medallion architecture as well. So you learn, and it's good to know both. It's very good to know both because you are exposed to more opportunities and you are able to extend your knowledge, and like you are more exposed. You are able to do more advanced stuff in the medallion architecture with when you know both, especially PySpark, because that's what it's used to run billions of data. PySpark, it's very good. So with this, you can then use this layer. You expose it this where the business analyst, AI engineer, ML engineer that I spoke about make use of, right? And this is where it comes in. The winner, which is the good layer, comes in here. Now you can see that the difference, you can see the difference between the medallion architecture design and the Olympics design, right? You can see the arrangement in for the Olympics. It seems like the third and the bronze are the same, but when you move forward, you can see that the silver comes the second in the medallion architecture, different from how. Yeah, you can see that in the medallion architecture, the silver layer comes next, right? The silver comes next, which is very different from how the Olympics is arranged, right? And in Olympics, you can see that the first rider is in the middle, and and then followed by the silver. But in medallion architecture, we bring the silver here and the gold next, right? And the most important, one of the reasons having this is because when this is exposed to the AI engineer, ML engineer, that's the good. When it's exposed to the AI engineer and ML engineer, in an event they need extra data, which not everything, most of it, we don't bring everything into the good layer. It's based on demand, or like, these are prerequisites, like basic things that must be in the good table or good layer. When that is done, and maybe any of these parties need extra data, the good thing that comes in here is you might have already have the good the extra data in the silver layer. All you do is just to call up or to just expose that data to them using your Python already built or your SQL. You just call it, and then that is readily available because you've already built the infrastructure before they built the system. And so it turns like a system that runs on its own, or it keeps running on its own. If they need more data, you just call it up. If you cannot find it in the silver layer, there is the bronze layer. You can call it into the silver, and then from the silver, you call it into the gold layer. So that is how good the medallion architecture is. It gives a systematic flow of data. It is like a flow, right? So at every point, it stores different kinds of data, more advanced. Some are more advanced, some are well cleaned, others are in their raw source, their raw form. When it reaches the good layer, it is more cleaned and ready to use. That's what business analysts make use of to design their dashboards, to make their presentations. The sales team consume this, the sales team, the business analyst, the management consumes it. But at the hood, behind the hood, the data engineer have already built a system or an infrastructure that is running all this. When there's a break in any of this, then data stops. at a point it stops, or it stops updating. Then you sometimes you see it, and others, the business analyst will see it because he's the one consuming it. He might see it and inform you, and then you need to go to your pipeline, or you need to go to your infrastructure, your Medallion infrastructure, and find out which parts were broken, and that's when you fix it. When you fix it, then the pipe continues, or the flow continues. So this is the Medallion architecture that we've been speaking about in data engineering. You can see it's pretty easy once you understand the concept of Olympics. Knowing the concept of Olympics, which is very common to everyone, understands how Olympics medals are given. With that concept, or with that knowledge, we just transferred it into data engineering, and that is what we just called the Medallion architecture, and that's how it's called in the field. It is not something that has been coined by me. No, it is something that it's in the industry. If you look at job descriptions, they have it in there. You know how to code. Sometimes some people say it straight up, Medallion architecture. Some say data arrangement infrastructure, right? So this is the whole Medallion architecture that we've been talking about. With this concept, just that to be able to build this, you need to know how to code in SQL or Python, or if possible, both, which makes you stand out. And that is why SQL and Python are key languages that people are encouraged to learn. It's not only to use for developing and or developing website or not. No, you need it for data engineering as well. And those are the two things that you use. And it all depends on how people call it different names, right? Some institutions call the bronze layer landing, right? Landing layer, and call the silver staging layer, and then call the gold fact. It all depends on the institutional language, or what these institutions want to describe their data, how they want to present it. But at the end of the day, it goes down to the concept of Medallion architecture. At the end of the day, it all goes down to Medallion architecture, and this is the Medallion architecture that they talk about. This is how it's done. This is how the concept, the whole thing is all about. But you need the coding language to be able to execute and implement it from scratch. So it's always been your favorite data engineer, Henry, and you know I will break all these things down for you in a language that you understand. Follow my channel, send it to your friends or your colleagues. Invite others to come and like my channel, to follow my page, subscribe, and share, like, comment. I want to hear your comments on what do you think about this. Do you think it's something that you easily understood? And let me know so that we could throw more light and what next you want me to talk about. Thank you for joining me. See you in my next video. Bye bye.